Welcome to another edition of Bigger Than Sports. I'm your host, Chris Williamson, and joining me for this episode is two-time Super Bowl champion Booger McFarland, who's now an ESPN NFL analyst. And Booger, I think we need to start with your given name is Anthony. So how did you get the name Booger?
You know what, man? I'm from Louisiana, and everyone in the state of Louisiana, more importantly, probably the South, has a nickname, and I'm no different. I have an older sister, a younger brother. I'm a middle child, obviously. And, you know, there was a point in time where I got called a lot of things by my mother. And when you have an older sibling, they usually tease you with some of those things. And Booger was one of the ones that my older sister chose to use. And everyone kind of heard it, and everyone made fun of it. And next thing you know, everybody in the neighborhood is calling me that over and over. And then it just kind of took a life of its own. And I finally got tired of it a little bit. And it was like, okay, so how am I going to get rid of it? And I said, you know what? When I sign with LSU, I go to Baton Rouge. Nobody else know it. Yada, yada, yada. I'm in good shape. I get to Baton Rouge. I'm playing football. I make a tackle. One of the first games, and the PA announcer comes on. It was like, tackle by Booger McFarland. And I'm like, and I turned and just looked at the press box, and I'm like, how in the hell did he find that out? And at that point, I just decided to accept it, man. And it's been a part of who I am for what is that, 1995? So I mean, that's going on almost 26 years, man.
Yeah, so you fully embraced it now.
Yeah, it's just who I am, man. No one calls me Anthony anymore.
Playing in the NFL, you know, for such a long time, you enjoyed success many people don't even get to dream about. But walk me through some of the challenges that you may have faced, racism-wise, through your teammates or maybe executives.
You know, we often look at racism in this country, and we look at positions that Black people either have not had or they're scarcely put in. And somewhere along the line, we come up with the thought that, or we come up with the term racism, and there's some of that in there. And so when you look at, as far as myself, and I can only speak and be an expert on that, I've been fortunate, man. Like I've been in positions in my life that color has not dictated a lot of what I've done. And maybe because that's where sports come in at. And so I'm a firm believer, when you step inside the locker room, sports, the actual athlete part, not the front office part, but the actual athlete part of the sports realm, you don't really see a ton of racism. Sure, there's some. There's no such thing as none at all. But man, like when I look at the guy that has a locker next to me, it doesn't matter what color he is. Can you help me win? And when you get into the politics of front office and all these other different situations, now we see that, especially when it comes to coaching and GMs and front office and all those different things. So it's there, man. I'm just fortunate enough. I haven't had to deal with it, but I'm also very empathetic to the people that do have to deal with it on a daily basis.
Let's move to the coaching cycle for the NFL. There were 7 openings, you know, at the end of the year. So far, the first 5 slots have been filled out by white coaches and 1 Muslim American. If the last 2 openings go to white coaches, there will just be 2 Black coaches out of 32 in the league. So when you hear that, when you see what's going on, especially after the year we had, Booger, how infuriating is that? And what honestly can be done to change this situation?
Well, you know what, man, that's a great question. And I think people smarter than me have failed. They've enacted rules. We have the Rooney Rule. Like they've enacted committees. The Fritz Pollard Alliance has tried to be a part and help with it. So you got a lot of people that are smarter than me and you that are in rooms trying to figure this out. I think here's what it comes down to. You have 31 owners who are billionaires, plus the Green Bay Packers, who are a publicly traded company, etc. Imagine, Chris, if you were a billionaire and somebody said, hey, you're a billionaire, you're worth X amount of billion, but here's what I want you to do with that money. Somebody's going to tell you what to do with it. I think that's what's happening behind closed doors with these owners. And what I would counter to them and say is this: yes, most of you guys have made that money employing a large part of African-American players and coaches. And these people know the game. And if you want to win, and you want to win at a high level, allow some of these young, creative, smart brothers to do the same thing that they did just on a higher level to make you that money. Okay. I think it gets frustrating a lot of times. You can go a lot of different ways, but I think it gets frustrating when we can play the game at the highest level. We can teach the game as a position coach at the highest level. But when it comes to the most important position of coordinating, meaning I'm going to put you in charge of a large group of men. So not just 8 linebackers, but 25 guys on defense. Okay. So now do I want to give you that much responsibility? And so as we try to solve this complex problem, man, I just think that somehow, some way, we're going to have to get through to the 31 owners plus the Packers organization that not only can the Black players and coaches work in small groups and individuals, but we also can manage and lead large groups of people. Not only can we do that, we can lead a multi-million-dollar business, because that's ultimately what it comes down to, okay? Like, once we put this in business terms, I'm asking a Black man to lead my multi-billion-dollar business. I'm asking Jim Caldwell, Tony Dungy, Marvin Lewis, Mike Tomlin, all the people that have been there and done that to lead my multi-billion-dollar organization. And that's where you got to convince the ownership that they can do it. I don't have the answer. I don't. But is there a problem? Absolutely. Because again, just to reiterate my point, it's cool to play it, but yeah, I played it. I'm the expert. And not every player can be a coach. Okay, understand. I get that. But I played it. Some of us played it at a high level. Some of us can teach the game at a high level, and we can use our expertise to make your team better. So it's very frustrating.
And in December, you and I had a little back and forth following a take, which I which I disagreed with, about Dwayne Haskins' release from the Washington football team. And you said Haskins was basically an example that you had seen before, and you were targeting all players, but specifically Black players, about their focus on the brand more so than the actual game. And I just wanted to know if you could elaborate on what you were saying, and do you regret the phrasing at all? Because I think a lot of people, they heard your message, the younger generation is more focused on the Instagram, but the racial component was something that, fell flat.
Well, here's what I'll say. If you look at me, and I'm sure you're staring at me right now, I'm a 43-year-old Black man. I was born in the South, okay? I understand what this NFL is made up of. It's made up of 70% us. And, people oftentimes want, well, if you're going to point the finger over there, you got to point it over there. Well, listen, I can only look at and be an expert on a Black man. That's what I am. I can't be an expert on anything else but being a Black man. And with my experience in the league, yes, it's all players. All players have fallen victim to this. White, Black, all young players have fallen victim to it, but I'm only an expert on one part of that. And so I spoke passionately about Dwayne Haskins as an example. It's really not about him. I can go on and name a ton of players, but it's about the young players, specifically, the young majority, which are us, the African-American players. We make up 70% of this league. You got to make the main thing, man. Like, I get it. We all want to be bigger than life when it comes to off the field, but remember, the field is what got you the opportunities. The field is what got you the chance to be bigger than life off the field. And if you deter from making the main thing, then one day the main thing's gonna be taken away, and then what do you have? And I think we've seen numerous cases where people have done that, and I'm tired of seeing it, man. I'm tired of seeing people just take the lottery ticket and tear it up. Listen, this is a child's game, man. We take a piece of leather and we toss it around, and they will pay you more money than they pay a guy to operate on a brain. Chris, think about that. They will pay you more money to play a game with a piece of leather and air in it than they will to perform brain surgery. Man, don't throw this lottery ticket away. And so hopefully, man, some people took it the wrong way based on what they heard or what they thought they heard, and that's okay. I do think that there was a heightened sense of awareness that was brought on it. And I think in a private moment, a lot of people realized that, you know what? Yeah, I may not agree of how he phrased it or what he said, but I think if you listen and you listen to word for word, I think you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and so, but you understood the danger in the way you phrased it when it came to how executives might look at, Black QBs in the future, and the fact that, Black quarterbacks, Black players are predisposed to being lazy and not about the business. You do understand that, right, or not?
I understand it because I'm not afraid to ask for advice, and so I reached out to people who I think are smarter than me. All right, and just, hey, give me your take, give me your feedback. And a lot of them heard it the way you're saying. Some of them heard it my way. Some of them heard it a totally different way. And so at the very least, the message wasn't as concise and direct as it needed to be. And so to your point, I understand that the net that I was trying to cast was vast. It was a vast net. And so people interpret it a lot of different ways. And so, yeah, I get that. And anytime you bring up race in this country, man, you're always going to invoke a lot of different emotion. Two things that you can't bring up, or actually take that back. There's four. There's race, there's politics, there's religion, and that's what kind of how you want your steak cooked. Because I tell people all the time, I'm a well done steak guy, and people will get upset with me because I like my steak well done. So those are the four things that you cannot talk about in this country: politics, religion, race. And if you eat a well-done steak, people will disown you, Chris.
Is that so?
Dude, how you gonna ruin the meat? It's a great piece of meat. I'm like, listen, man, in the South, we eat everything, like everything's gotta be cooked, man. We don't eat nothing like with red in it, nothing.
No, I hear you, man. And yeah, I totally understood that you were coming from a good place when it came to that take that you made. I just think if you had said, it especially hurts me, when I see a Black player not take advantage of the opportunities, it may have come across, a bit better. But I do understand you were coming from, the most sincere place, and you're looking out, you're trying to help, these Black brothers in the game. We're interviewing you on January 19th. So that is the eve of the presidential inauguration, which hopefully takes place in a peaceful manner. Looking back a few weeks at the insurrection at the Capitol, I was drawn really to the difference in how a group of white people were treated versus how Black people were treated during the Black Lives Matter protests. What was your reaction to everything went down?
Well, I think it was a very emotional time. I think we all had some semblance of the same thoughts, which was we're at a point in America that we never thought we would be, which the capital of the United States is being basically taken hostage. And I was just embarrassed to be an American, man. I was embarrassed that we got to this point. I was embarrassed that the person in charge, our president, seemingly, knowingly was instigating this process. So that was an embarrassment. There's a certain thing that I always live by, that I grew up on. Man, treat people how you want to be treated. I think that's what we always ask of our leaders. Okay, yeah, we may disagree on policy, but I'm not going to treat you any less than a human being. I'm going to treat you the right way. And I think this leadership group that's exiting with the inauguration, I think they failed in all those categories. I think the presidency under Donald Trump incited so much hate in America, and a lot of it was racially motivated, and I think a lot of it was something that to the like none of us had ever really seen before. And that really had less to do with policy. That ain't got nothing to do with policy, man. That is, okay, you guys, or you and your party, or you and your people, whoever you talk to, or whoever your supporters are, you guys think you're better than us because you're white and we're Black. And I think that's something that for the last, 100 years, we've tried to outgrow.
And that kind of leads into my last question, which you're talking about all the hate and racism that's been inflamed by Donald Trump in his presidency. What can people do right now, Booger, to help eradicate racism and social injustice?
I think it's really simple. And just to piggyback off what I just said, man, treat people how you want to be treated. The easy thing to do is become emotional about what's happened in the past. That's easy. All right. My mother was born in 1955. I could have lived my entire 43 years emotional about a lot of the things that happened to her. That wouldn't have made me the man I am today. And she wouldn't have wanted that. I think as parents, we want our kids to grow up and be better than we are. And I think as people, where we are today is really simple, especially Black people. Yes, we have dealt with racism, we dealt with slavery, we dealt with so many things that were wrong, that went against the human race. Just treating people how you want to be treated. So now what do? I think we learn from it. I think we, even the Bible tells us to forgive. It didn't say forget though, okay? I've been reading it a long time. It says forgive. It doesn't say forget. So we have to be able to do that and move forward. You ain't gotta like everybody, but man, treat me with the same respect regardless of the color of my skin. I think that's what Black people have been fighting forever, since day one, is that you judge me and you look at me differently because I'm Black and you're white. Or you judge me and you look at me differently because I'm brown and you're not. And I don't think we'll ever get to a point where that is 100% gone. But I think we can get to a point, man, where we got to learn to respect each other and treat each other no different. How would you treat me if your daughter was the same color as me? How would you treat me? Like, would you treat her any differently? If you were a blind mother and you couldn't see the color of your daughter, would you treat her different than me? And so I just think we got to get to that point. Easier said than done. Trust me, I know. I just think that's where we start. That's where we go, man. And we got to do that. But hate requires too much energy, too much time. It requires too much too much space in my domain. Hate requires a lot of that. Hate takes time. So I'm not gonna hate people for those things. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna learn to acknowledge that it was in existence. I will learn from it. I will learn from what you not to do, but I'm gonna move forward. And I'm gonna choose love over hate, man.
You preaching to the choir, man. Preaching to the choir on that one. Booger McFarland, thank you so much for your insight. It's been a wonderful time to have this discussion with you, and would love to have you back anytime you would like. Booger McFarland, thank you so much.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.